What's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make these bike light blinkers with directionals and a clip which attaches to almost any single bike. So let's get started. The first thing you're going to need is two NPN transistors. We're going to use two 33 ohm resistors as well as one 9-volt battery. We're also going to use an Arduino Uno in this case, but you can use a smaller one if you have one. So I quickly just wired up a circuit just so you guys can kind of get the idea of how it's going to work. And as you can see, whenever the pin gets pulled high, which I just attached to 5 volts, all the lights turn on and it'll blink back and forth. I would like to note right here that if you look at the schematic which I placed in the video, you can also look at the link down below in the instructables. I added two 100 ohm resistors coming out of the pins 2 and 7. The reason for this was because the current draw was too high when I had the bike lights blinking, so it caused it to just shut off and stop working. This is important. I didn't put it in the video, but I did it after the fact. So after 3D printing and removing all the parts from my 3D printer, I began assembling it. I put all the lights into the little holes with all the positive and negative leads lined up in a row, as you see here. Once all of these leads were lined up like they should have been, it made it a lot easier to solder together and the wires to hook it up to the Arduino, like so. Attached these two little plastic wing plates to the piece. I hot glued them in place, which is good enough for now, and then placed them on top and let it dry. I made sure to put excess such that it kind of poured out of the edges. In doing so, it helped it stick on better and allowed it for me to easily remove the hot glue with a screwdriver, like so. Instead of placing that lead right there, I would have put a 100 ohm resistor on one of those legs and attached the other one to the input pin of the transistor, or the base pin. The next thing I did was get some heat shrink and put it over the wire. Then I also got an even bigger piece of heat shrink to cover up the two smaller pieces of heat shrink to keep the wire as one unit. So after winding them up like this and soldering them together, I placed the heat shrink over. As you can see in one of these, I couldn't get it all the way over because I didn't have the right sized heat shrink, but I made it work and put the bigger piece of heat shrink over both of them. This should insulate them well. So now we're going to build the back base plate with the clips. So you're going to need some bolts and some nuts and some pliers to tighten it down. So I put 2 nuts on the end of each bolt and stuck it through the holes. These bolts are a little bit smaller than the hole and have some wiggle room. This is so that it has enough room to squeeze together the clamp without cracking the plastic. And once assembling all 4 holes, it should look something like this. You can easily adjust it by tightening the screws and the nuts. So now we have to assemble the back plate onto our light. So using hot glue, I just went all around the edges and applied it like so. You're going to see why this was a big mistake later in the video. I tested it all, make sure it worked, and I was happy with what I had. The right blinker worked, the left blinker worked, and both of them blinked at the same time, which is exactly what I wanted. The next step was to unscrew the bike post and attach it to the bike. So all I did was got one of these Allen keys and pulled it out from the bike, slipping it through the hole on the bike lamp, on the bike light, and tightening it down after removing the little red thing. Here was where the mistake happened. The hot glue didn't stick on very well.
Are you serious?
So what I had to do then was drill some holes and get some zip ties to attach it on, like you see here. I just drilled some holes and make sure to be very careful because PLA is very soft, so the drill bit will just tear right through it. So after making some holes in both the back plate and in the light itself, I then secured it down with zip ties and attached it back to the frame. It worked pretty well and was pretty sturdy. So now I bent it up to fit my standards, making sure it was tight, and slipped through the 9-volt battery in the back. I made sure to test it again and then secured down the 9-volt battery with a zip tie. You can use a rechargeable battery if you don't want to use a disposable one. Then I pulled down the wires all the way along the frame of the bike up to the front handle with enough room for slack in order to turn. As you guys can see, I zip tied it down to the light in the front and tightened the bolts over them. So here it is at night, guys, with both of the lights on, left blinker off and right blinker, and it looks really great and has a great distance of visibility. So it'll keep you nice and safe whenever you're riding your bike. Just make sure to unplug it when you're done. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you had just as much fun making this as I did, and I'll see you in the next one.